Don't bet silly, bet savvy. Join Coral's Bet and Get Club and get a free £5 bet every Sunday. The smart money's on Coral.
Hello and welcome to the Racing Post Cricket World Cup show. I'm James Milton. I'm joined by my Racing Post colleagues Liam Flynn and Joe Champion. And from Coral we've got Harry Aitkenhead joining us. And we're going to reflect on some of the big games we've seen in the past few days, weather permitting, and look ahead to England's game against Afghanistan as well. Harry, I'm going to start with you because the top of the outright betting now looking pretty interesting. You're finding it difficult to split England and India.
Yeah, it's been very difficult. Obviously England we know all about and the hot favourites before the tournament. They still are the favourites 7-4, but India looks so impressive, 15-8 now. Not much between them. Doesn't really look like a weakling India's team. They were awesome yesterday against Pakistan. Australia 11-4. They seem to be finding a way to win even when not playing their best. And then New Zealand 7-1, and the West Indies 28-1 as they're playing today.
Yeah, as we speak, the West Indies are playing Bangladesh, and Chris Gale out for a 13-ball duck, which isn't what you want if you go along to see the universe boss in action. But Liam, I'll come to you on the outright prices. How taken have you been by India, bearing in mind that they've got some pretty tough games out of the way as well already?
Yeah, absolutely. They've made a superb start, and I think also they look pretty accomplished despite Shikhar Dhawan's absence in the last game. Their top order just looks brilliant, and very similar to England. When their key players don't fire, they've got players who can step up. Even look at the bowling. I don't think Bumrah or Kumar took a wicket between them against Pakistan, but we still saw some great performances there. And also Rohit Sharma obviously looking to throw his name into the ring to be top run scorer in this tournament. He's had some very impressive performances so far. So yeah, I'd still be siding with England but yeah, India have been very impressive so far.
Yeah, and Joe, what do you make of that outright market? I mean, England pretty much the same price they started the tournament. They obviously had the shock defeat to Pakistan. Otherwise, they've pretty much gone about their business as we'd expect. I mean, their win against the West Indies was pretty comprehensive last time out.
Yeah, it was a fairly easy one for them, wasn't it? I do think that England have still got tough games to come, whereas India, they've got to play India, England, and Australia. They've got these difficult games coming up, whereas India have got Australia out of the way, and they've obviously had a no result against New Zealand. They, along with England, are probably going to be their two toughest games. So that is one of the reasons for the sort of move for India. But they have looked awesome so far, really, and they're going to take a lot of stopping. And England might be the team to do it, though. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth mentioning a few injuries that are cropping up as well. England likely to be without Jason Roy and Owen Morgan. We'll have a look at how that will affect their chances against Afghanistan. The bookmakers don't really think it will affect their chances at all, but with tougher games to come, and then Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who we mentioned, he went off injured for India. He looks like he's going to be out for a bit. So it's worth keeping an eye on
as well.
Absolutely, yeah. He's already missed a couple of games, hasn't he? But and I just want to touch on Australia as well, actually, because they're top of the table at the moment for what it's worth, and they don't look to me like they have a great balanced side, particularly with Marcus Stoinis injured at the moment. But they are grinding out the wins. And Harry, what do you make of them?
Yeah, I think Stark's been on fire. They're taking wickets for fun. The batting seems steady, but they're not been hitting the big scores. I wonder if that will hurt them later on in the tournament, especially if the weather picks up and the scores get a bit higher. I just think they might struggle to post scores of like 320, 330, which could come back to haunt them. But Finch is in great form. He's now 5-1 to be top bat the whole tournament. Seems to be that opening batsmen are dominating. Yeah. We've got Rohit 11-4 and Joe Root, obviously who opened in Roy's absence, 4-1 shot for top bat. I think it's hard to see Australia not making the top four, but I think they'll just fall short against England and India. And we've got in England versus India finals 9-4 now. Yeah, it's 9-4 for those two to be the last two standing. Yeah,
they've looked pretty classy, those two. I mean, Liam, with Australia, their bowling they look a huge threat with Cummins and Stark with the new ball, and then coming back to wipe up the tail. But kind of in between, the middle overs, they seem to lack a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Stark and Cummins, obviously towards the head of the bowler betting at the moment. But yeah, like Colton Isle, for example. I mean, I know he performed pretty well with the bat in this tournament, but then obviously as a result of that, there was rumours of him possibly being dropped for his performance with the ball. And as you say, I think beyond those two, they do struggle a little bit. And when you compare them to the likes of India, for example, when they've got the likes of Yuzvendra Chahal coming in the middle overs, then I definitely think that that's where teams like India have the edge. And even England, I mean, I know Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid haven't really stepped up to the mark yet, but I think when they get going, you couple that with the pace of Wood and Archer and Wokes as well, I think that could be a vulnerability for Australia, a lack of depth in their bowling attack.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where India won the game against Pakistan, wasn't it? The middle overs, they just absolutely took control. And Joe, so we're looking at India, England, Australia, and then New Zealand are in a pretty strong position to get that last semi-final place. I mean, they've played an absolute blinder. They've won all their easy games and then got rained off against India. So I don't know if you can attribute that to Kane Williamson's brilliant captaincy, but he's doing something right. How much of a threat would you see them if they've got to play South Africa obviously next time out? We'll preview that later in the show, but how much of a threat would you see them to the big three?
Well, as you say, it's very hard to weigh up because they played who probably undisputably the three worst teams in the tournament. Maybe a bit harsh on Bangladesh, but and then they got that rained off game. So you can't really fault what they've done so far, but they haven't really shown us how good they could possibly be. I like them. They've got a good balance to their size. They've got great bowlers. They've got an explosive top order, a fine middle order. Williamson and Taylor are old hands at this sort of game, and there's a lot to like about New Zealand. But we might get a good idea of where they're at when they play South Africa in a couple of days.
Absolutely. And Harry, you touched on the top run scorer betting with Aaron Finch's price. Just look at Finch. He's leading the way on 343. Then Rohit Sharma, who's only had 3 innings, I think, is on 319. Warner and Root a bit behind that, and then Jason Roy, who looks like he's going to miss at least a couple of games through injury, so he's struggling now. But Rohit Sharma's your favourite, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, 11-4. I think Roy is out to 20-1 now, and I think we're expecting him to miss at least 1 game, probably 2. Especially if England keep winning, they might then rest him at the back end of the group stage. So Roy's price definitely reflected in that. Kohli 10-1. He obviously has been coming in a bit later with the way India's opening partnerships have been going so well, but I'm sure he's got a few more big scores in him. Warner 12-1, Smith 14-1. But there's still a lot of cricket to be played, so I wouldn't really rule out anyone that's made a big score already yet getting involved. Yeah.
What you would say about Sharma is, I mean, he looks so annoyed with himself to get out for 140 against Pakistan, and we've seen him score double centuries. 264, I think, is his top score in this.
It looked like that was on yesterday, didn't it?
This format, exactly. Yeah. So he'd have power to add. Liam, is there any other players kind of lower down the betting, a top bowler or top run scorer? You're right.
He's not particularly lower down the betting, but I think Root is actually quite a good price, 4-1 top bat. I mean, the manner of the role he plays in that England team. Obviously, you've got some injuries at the moment, but ordinarily you'd have Bairstow and Roy opening up, and they're obviously quite explosive batsmen. And we saw when one of those two, if England lose an early wicket, Root obviously plays that role where he comes in, sort of steadies the ship, and he's that sort of glue that holds the top order together. And for that reason, I think he represents good value, especially if you're looking to get with England to get far into this competition. I mean, you're looking at the semi and a final. You've got extra games there in which he can perform. And I think the injuries obviously mean that he's probably bumped up the order. We saw him open. Good chance of that possibly happening again, depending on whether or not James Vince comes into the team. But I definitely think that's a big price.
Yeah, and Joe, anyone who's caught your eye in the individual markets?
The market looks about right to me. I think you have to stick with teams from that kind of big 4 that we've got now, and specifically really Australia, India and England. And, I agree with Liam about Root. He's doing a superb job, and they all seem to bat round him. He just goes along at their own pace, ticks about run a ball, and, he's played really well so far. Rohit looked awesome on Sunday, didn't he? So, I find it hard to see past him if you're going to get that extra game at least. And with Darwan out, he's going to play every game, I'd imagine. So, Sharma, the right favourite, Root, a decent price. But, nothing I'm really desperate to get involved in. Yeah,
well, that's the lads' thoughts on the outright market and some of the top individual betting at the moment. We're going to be looking ahead after this short break to England versus Afghanistan.
Don't bet silly, bet savvy. Join Coral's Bet and Get Club and get a free £5 bet every Sunday. The smart money's on Coral.
Hello, welcome back to the Racing Post Cricket World Cup show. I'm James Milton. I'm joined by Joe Champion and Liam Flynn from the Racing Post Sports Desk and Coral's Harry Aitkenhead, and we're looking ahead to England's game against Afghanistan. Probably not one of the most hotly anticipated fixtures of the tournament. And Harry, this must be one of the most one-sided games that Coral are betting on.
Yeah, the injury worries don't seem to have affected the betting too much. England 1-25, Afghanistan 9-1 for an upset. They've struggled this tournament so far. We saw these two meet in the warm-up game and England just blew them away at the Oval before the tournament, and I don't think there'll be too many people rushing to take the 9-1 about Afghanistan. Yeah,
it's a difficult one from a betting perspective, Joe. You're obviously going to be digging deeper than just the match betting. There's no chance Afghanistan can cause an upset, is there?
Well, we thought this before with England. I think maybe this England team are made of sterner stuff than their previous.
World 2020 defeat to Holland springs to mind, but yeah, I think this is
various
a new era,
defeats to Ireland and Bangladesh over the last few World Cups, but yeah, I should think they'll prove too good for an Afghanistan team who promised at the start of the tournament to mix it with the best, but they've disappointed really. I think they're too reliant on Rashid Khan, and the batting order is in absolute disarray as well. So yeah, I can't see past an England win really. It's just what market is best to get involved with.
Have you got any particular player markets that you like the look of?
Yeah, I'm just looking at, well, depending on whether or not England are put into bowl first. If England bowl first, then I really like, presuming he plays, Jofra Archer to be man of the match, because I think this Afghanistan top order, and they've struggled a lot against really good bowling, and Archer's been superb for England so far. He's got 9 wickets in the tournament, I think, 3 wicket hauls, and yeah, he'll get a chance to bowl at some batsmen who are going to be low on confidence, and we've seen Afghanistan dismissed for 207, 152, 172 and 125, which is nowhere near par score. And I think if Archer takes 3 or 4 wickets, then it's likely he'll get man of the match and a batsman probably won't. So
yeah, in a kind of low run chase. Yeah, I mean Afghanistan started the tournament, didn't they, with 2 ducks for their openers.
You can get sort of 9-1 on that with Coral, I think, and failing that, if Archer doesn't play, and it's possible that England may rotate their seamers, Mark Wood at 16-1, he's also bowled really well. So yeah, another bowling option there.
Yeah, and so yeah, as we mentioned, probably Jason Roy and Owen Morgan likely to miss out. James Finch, the reserve batsman. I'm going to turn to Liam, who's our Afghanistan expert. You were down in Cardiff for their memorable game against South Africa at the weekend.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I mean, I'd expected a bit more from Afghanistan in the tournament so far. Actually, obviously, I think the rain delay in that game with South Africa probably went against them, because they were actually going along fairly steadily with the bat before that. But obviously, then they brought on Imran Tahir after the rain delay.
It was sort of 70 for 2
collapsed.
And then 80 for 7.
Yeah, and then there were obviously some sort of ironic cheers from the crowd for every single they scored. So I don't think there was. After that point, I think they looked down and out. For this game, I quite like the look of another spinner, Moeen Ali, to take 2 or more wickets. It sounds like he's likely to come back into the team. Obviously, England, as you say, ringing the changes with Roy and Morgan dropping out. Vince likely to come in and make his World Cup debut, I believe. And obviously being played at Old Trafford, which is, I think, renowned really as quite a spin-friendly venue. And Ali was actually the pick of probably England's bowlers there against Australia in the final ODI of a series they played last year, finished with figures of 4 for 46 on that occasion. And we saw how many problems sort of Imran Tahir caused Afghanistan, as we say in that game at Sophia Gardens. Took 4 wickets in that match, and Ali actually bowled quite well against Afghanistan in the warm-up game. He only took one wicket, but figures of 1 for 42, and I think he can go one better in this. So I'd say, yeah, Moeen Ali to take 2 or more wickets in this game looks like quite a good bet.
Yeah, excellent. I like the look of Johnny Bairstow, top run scorer for England. I think he's had a quiet start to the tournament. Obviously got his golden duck in the opener, which wasn't ideal, but he's just slowly warming to his task. 32, 51, 45 in his last 3 innings. And I was all over Quinton de Kock to top score for South Africa. I think you just don't want to be looking too far down past the openers in this market against Afghanistan. So I think it's set up nicely for Johnny Bairstow. Joe mentioned Jofra Archer, so he's 4-7 to take 2 or more wickets with Coral, which, you know, for big hitting punters, I think that looks like a decent price actually.
11-4 to be top bowl, and he was a bit unlucky not to get that in the last game, taking 3 for as well.
Yeah.
Mark Wood, obviously, just missed out. Like I said, I was at that warm-up game, and Archer was all over the Afghanistan top order, and I would expect if he plays tomorrow that he will do so again. Yeah,
he's been hugely impressive. Well, the lads are not expecting England to slip up despite their injury problems, and they expect England to outclass Afghanistan at Old Trafford. Join us after this short break and we'll look ahead to a slightly more even contest between New Zealand and South Africa.
Don't bet silly, bet savvy. Join Coral's Bet and Get Club and get a free £5 bet every Sunday. The smart money's on Coral.
Hi, welcome back to the Racing Post Cricket World Cup show. We're going to be looking ahead to a really intriguing game now between New Zealand and South Africa at Edgbaston on Wednesday. And I'll turn to Harry Aitkenhead from Coral for the latest betting on that match.
Yeah, it's a really big game for both sides and a really close betting heat as well. New Zealand slight favourites 8-11, South Africa 11-10. So depending on which side of the fence you're on, there's a bit of value for both there. I don't know what you guys think, but I think New Zealand obviously looks strong, but they haven't really been tested yet. So you might find South Africa quite popular at those prices, needing to win desperately as well.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it, Liam? I mean, New Zealand started well, beating Afghanistan, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, and then a no result against India. And so they're sitting pretty, whereas South Africa have had a really tough start to the tournament, lost their first 3 games, and then got a much needed win that just about keeps them alive against Afghanistan. Could this, though, be curtains for South Africa? What do you reckon?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think New Zealand's sort of price to top the group stage is kind of halved by compared to what it was at the start of the tournament. As you say, they've had a sort of very strong base to build on. The draw, kind of the fixtures have been pretty kind to them so far. And I think, yeah, 8-11 is quite good value to get with them, really. I mean, you can, looking at South Africa's first win, it was against sort of an Afghanistan team who have been pretty poor up to this point, as I said, and I think you've got to kind of take that result with a pinch of salt. As I said, I think the rain delay kind of had quite a big impact on that game. South Africa lost tough games to England and India, but they also obviously defeated by Bangladesh, and then they were at 29 for 2 before their game with the Windies was abandoned. So I think they've had a couple of good individuals. Felakwe, who's been quite good with bat and ball really, and Tahir is obviously impressed. But generally they've been pretty poor, and I think New Zealand just look in perfect shape to make the top 4. I know they haven't really been tested so far, but I just think the quality in that squad. I mean, you look at Lockie Ferguson and Matt Henry have kind of been the key performers with the ball, and almost forgetting about how excellent a bowler Trent Boult is, and Santner obviously a danger with the spin, and then they got a star-studded top order. So I think first and foremost I'll be looking to get with New Zealand to win. Another bet maybe to have a look at sort of New Zealand to have the highest score after 15 overs. I think obviously Quinton de Kock is a class act for South Africa. Head and shoulders their best batsman in my opinion. But you look at tends to open with Hashim Amla, who just still looks like a test player to me. I mean, 13 against England, 6 against India, 6 against West Indies, and it took 83 balls to score those 41 against Afghanistan, which the way the game one-day international cricket is going now, it's a very, very slow rate. And you compare that with Guptill and Munro likely to be opening for New Zealand. Their power hitters scored 17 boundaries between them on the way to beating Sri Lanka in that opening game, and then obviously you add in the fact that New Zealand have got a much superior new ball bowling attack. I think that should also give them the edge in that market.
Yeah, I mean, Amla in his prime was one of the great ODI batsmen, but he's not looked like that for a good 18 months or so, and has really struggled in this tournament. Joe, does it just look like a kind of New Zealand unit who are full of confidence, know exactly what they're doing, against the South Africa side who've got a lot of players out of form and have also struggled with injuries, and they just look a little bit patched up to me? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the South Africa team, they are struggling, and we've mentioned Amla's struggles at the top of the order. dealt a massive blow at the start of the tournament when Dale Steyn was ruled out. Lungi Ngidi been injured. He might come back in for this, but he's unlikely to be 100% even if he does. And I think their strength really was with the bowling attack, but when the bowling attack becomes so depleted and they're relying on Tahir and KG Rabada and Felakwaya, as Liam's mentioned, it becomes difficult for them. And yeah, the batting lineup hasn't done their job really. So yeah, I think they're up against it here, against, as you say, a well-drilled New Zealand team who know exactly what they're doing. My best bet would be Lockie Ferguson to be top bowler. He's been excellent so far, and the South African top order really struggled against pace against England in that first match, and Archer had them hopping around. And Hashim Amla, I don't think he's going to enjoy that at all. And he got hit on the face, of course, by Archer in that first match, and yeah, ever since then he's looked to shadow his former self really. So yeah, definitely Lockie Ferguson. He's got proper pace and he can get through that batting lineup quite quickly, I think.
Yeah, I mean India really troubled them with the new ball as well, and then they were saved by the rain when they'd lost 2 early wickets against the West Indies as well. So it's hard to have a great deal of faith in that batting lineup. One player I do like the look of is Rassie van der Dussen, who's not played a great deal of international cricket, but has looked right at home in it. He's kind of 5-1 to top scorer in, as we've mentioned, a struggling batting lineup. Yeah, I think the general consensus is that the 8-11 about New Zealand is probably worth taking. That would give them a huge step towards the semi-finals. So lads, I'm going to ask you for your best bets from. We're billing it as this round of fixtures. It's only 2 fixtures, but you've come up with some great opinions. So which is your strongest one of the lot? Liam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'd think Moeen Ali to take 2 or more wickets for me for England against Afghanistan. For the reasons I mentioned, I just think that he'll come back into that team against a pretty weak Afghanistan side. I think it looks good value.
And Joe?
I'll go with New Zealand to have the highest opening partnership. I've mentioned Hashim Amla's struggles, and yeah, I expect the Kiwis to make early inroads with the new ball, and they've got a pretty strong top order themselves. I mean, Martin Guptill got a first bowler against Afghanistan, but he's usually pretty solid, and so is Munro. I think they'll be fine.
Harry, have you got any overall price that you like the look of?
I'm going to go with England's opening stand to be 42 or more against Afghanistan at 5-6. I think whoever does bat at the top of the order, whether it be Root or Vince, is going to be well played. Root's in great form. Vince looked good in the ODI played against Ireland early in the summer. I think I can't see England failing to hit that 42 for the first wicket with Bairstow in form as well. Yeah,
I'm thinking along the same lines with Johnny Bairstow, top run scorer for England against Afghanistan. That's my pick of the prices here. Our next show will be on Wednesday, when we'll be reflecting on England's shock defeat to Afghanistan. No, probably not. But we will be previewing England's next game, which is against Sri Lanka. So join Bruce Millington, Coral's John Hill, and some Racing Post experts for that one.
Don't bet silly, bet savvy. Join Coral's Bet and Get Club and get a free £5 bet every Sunday. The smart money's on Coral.